The story of Ruth, a journey of redemption and faith. Have you ever felt like life has left you with nothing, standing at a crossroads with no clear path forward? You're not alone. Ruth, a woman from an unlikely background, faced devastating loss, yet she became part of a story that changed history. In this video, we'll explore the life of Ruth, a woman whose unwavering loyalty, humility, and faith in God's plan transformed her from an outcast to a key figure in a royal lineage. Her journey reminds us that even in our darkest hours, redemption is always possible. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to our channel, Old Testimonies. Here, we dive deep into the timeless lessons of the Bible, sharing stories of hope, faith, and divine purpose. Let's get started. Chapter 1. A family in crisis. Our story begins in the small town of Bethlehem during a time of famine. A man named Elimelech, along with his wife Naomi and their 2 sons, left their homeland in search of food and stability. They traveled to the land of Moab, a place foreign to their faith and customs. For a time, it seemed their decision was wise, as they found sustenance and a new home. Elimelech's sons even married Moabite women, Orpah and Ruth. But tragedy struck. Elimelech passed away, leaving Naomi a widow in a foreign land. As if this loss wasn't enough, Naomi's 2 sons also died, leaving her, Orpah, and Ruth in a dire situation. In ancient times, a widow without male support faced immense hardship. Naomi, bitter and heartbroken, decided to return to Bethlehem, where the famine had ended. She urged her daughters-in-law to stay in Moab, to return to their families and start anew. "Go back, my daughters," Naomi said. "Why come with me? I have nothing to offer you." Orpah tearfully agreed and returned to her family, but Ruth refused. Her response became one of the most famous declarations of loyalty in history. "Do not urge me to leave you or turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God." With those words, Ruth bound her fate to Naomi's, leaving behind her homeland, her gods, and her past to embrace an uncertain future. Chapter 2. A new beginning. When Naomi and Ruth arrived in Bethlehem, the town was abuzz with curiosity. The women exclaimed, "Is this Naomi?" But Naomi, burdened by grief, replied, "Do not call me Naomi, call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter." The 2 widows had nothing but each other. To survive, Ruth took on the humble task of gleaning in the fields. According to Israelite law, landowners were required to leave the edges of their fields unharvested for the poor and the foreigner. It was in these fields that Ruth's destiny began to unfold. She found herself working in the fields of Boaz, a kind and wealthy landowner who happened to be a relative of Naomi's late husband. Boaz noticed Ruth and asked about her. When he learned of her loyalty to Naomi, he was deeply moved. He approached Ruth and said, "My daughter, do not go to another field. Stay here with my workers. I have heard of all you have done for your mother-in-law. May the Lord repay you for your kindness." Boaz ensured Ruth's safety and allowed her to glean more than she needed, demonstrating God's provision in their time of need. When Ruth returned home with an abundant harvest, Naomi saw God's hand at work. She recognized Boaz as their family's kinsman redeemer, a relative who, according to custom, could restore their family's name and property. Chapter 3. Bold Steps of Faith. Naomi devised a bold plan. She instructed Ruth to approach Boaz at the threshing floor after the day's work was done. It was an unusual and risky move, but it demonstrated Ruth's trust in Naomi and their shared faith in God's plan. That night, Ruth approached Boaz as he slept, uncovering his feet, a gesture of humility and submission. When Boaz awoke and saw Ruth, she said, "Spread the corner of your garment over me, for you are a kinsman redeemer." Boaz was touched by Ruth's integrity and kindness. He assured her that he would fulfill his duty as a kinsman redeemer, but there was one obstacle. Another relative was first in line to redeem Naomi's land and marry Ruth. Boaz acted swiftly, gathering the town elders to settle the matter. The other relative declined, paving the way for Boaz to marry Ruth and restore Naomi's family line. Chapter 4: A Legacy Restored. Boaz and Ruth were married, and their union was blessed by God. In time, Ruth gave birth to a son named Obed. The women of Bethlehem rejoiced and said to Naomi, "Praise be to the Lord, who has not left you without a kinsman redeemer. May he become famous throughout Israel." Obed brought joy and hope back to Naomi's life. She held the baby in her arms, and the bitterness she once felt began to melt away. Ruth's love and faithfulness had redeemed not only Naomi's future, but also her spirit. But this story didn't end with Ruth, Naomi, and Obed. Obed grew up and became the father of Jesse, who became the father of David, the shepherd boy who would one day become Israel's greatest king. Ruth, a Moabite woman who was once a foreigner and an outcast, became part of the lineage of King David and, ultimately, Jesus Christ, the Savior of the world. Her story serves as a reminder that God's grace knows no boundaries and that He can use anyone, regardless of their past, to fulfill His divine purpose. Chapter 5: Lessons from Ruth's Journey. Ruth's life teaches us powerful lessons about faith, loyalty, and redemption. Loyalty in relationships. Ruth's unwavering devotion to Naomi shows us the beauty of selfless love. In a world that often prioritizes personal gain, Ruth's choice to stay with Naomi reminds us of the importance of standing by those we care about, even when it's inconvenient or difficult. Humility and hard work. Ruth didn't wait for her circumstances to improve. She worked tirelessly to provide for Naomi and herself. Her humility in gleaning from the fields teaches us the value of taking small, faithful steps even when the road ahead seems uncertain. Faith in God's plan. Ruth's decision to leave her homeland and embrace Naomi's God required immense faith. She trusted that God would guide her steps, and He did. Her story encourages us to trust in God's timing, even when we don't fully understand His plan. Redemption is always possible. Ruth's transformation from a grieving widow to a central figure in God's redemptive plan demonstrates that no one is beyond God's grace. No matter where we come from or what we've been through, God can use our lives for His glory. Closing thoughts. Ruth's story is a testament to the power of love, faith, and God's providence. From tragedy to triumph, her journey reminds us that God is always at work, even in the most challenging seasons of life. If you feel like you're standing at a crossroads or facing a season of uncertainty, take heart. Just as God had a plan for Ruth, He has a plan for you. Trust Him, take the next step in faith, and watch as He weaves your story into something beautiful. Thank you for watching this video. If Ruth's story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more faith-filled content. And as always, leave your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear how Ruth's journey resonates with your own. Until next time, may your faith be steadfast, and may you always trust in the Lord's unfailing love.